Hello, welcome to another video. Just straight off the bat, I want to say, I know this isn't my usual content, but this is something I find interesting and I think it's fun to talk about, I guess. But if you don't like this type of stuff, don't worry, I'm not like pivoting to a new area of content. Just stick around, the next video will be my best friend's bachelorette party vlog. I might have said something different in the video. I also want to say real quick, if you know me in real life, and I've never talked about this, I know like objectively or whatever, this is like a pretty big deal, but like to me, it's not a big deal. I'm just saying, if you know me in real life, don't be worried or anything. Like, I'm pretty chill. So let's do a little trigger warning. I'm gonna be talking about some mental disorders such as psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, OCD, probably some other stuff as well. And since I am drawing the monsters that I see, it sounds so stupid. I'm drawing the monsters that I see. So, like, I'm gonna say disturbing images as well. I'm not like that good at drawing, I know, but if your fantasy tends to run a little wild like mine does, you might want to sit this video out. Anyways, let's talk about it. From the beginning, we're gonna talk about childhood. Yay! It's kind of inevitable whenever you talk about psychology to not mention childhood stuff. So my earliest memory of like having symptoms or whatever is crying to my mother because I thought I was in a cartoon. More specifically, a Lucky Luke comic book, because I would read those like religiously. I couldn't really put it into words to my mother at the time because I was a child. But I do remember saying that, not like an actual cartoon, but I felt like I was seeing my body from the outside. Like I was looking at a comic book and reading it. Which is pretty scary as a child, so of course I was like crying to my mummy about it. But because of this, I have a theory that it is depersonalization, derealization disorder. I'm gonna read from my phone because I don't want to get this wrong. But the definition is that you always or often feel like you're seeing yourself from the outside of your body, or you sense that things around you are not real, or both. There are flaws with this theory though, because I have other symptoms as well, which we will get into obviously. And also it's not like often or always that I feel this way. It's just like pops in every once in a while. There are also other weird stuff, like I lived on a farm and my room was in like, not the attic, but like it was underneath the roof, so I had a window like this. English. But my bed was right underneath this window so I could look up at the stars when I was sleeping. I genuinely thought I could telepathically communicate with a little boy who lived on a star. Or that the star was like a little boy, it's unclear. It's just like an entity, loose concept of a boy up there that I could telepathically communicate with. And I can like see him. He was blue and had yellow hair and really cool shoes. And I know what you're thinking, you just have a good imagination. No, that's not what it is. I was too old at this point to believe this. Thinking back, it might have been like Jupiter or something, because it was like flashing and I thought the flashing was a mirror, like flashing light back at me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like in movies. I also felt like he or it, whatever, was the only person, entity, thing who could truly understand me. I was shot out the womb with melancholy in my blood. I don't know what to tell you. Also, since I lived on the farm, I was surrounded by fields, and the field in front of our kitchen window I thought was alive. Again, rich imagination. No, I was too old. Early childhood, I thought little monsters lived out there, like little gnome, gremlin type of things. But there was one big one as well. A reptile man, or to point to it wherever the drawing is. This reptile man also lived out in the field, but like kind of peeked over the tall grass. And it's not like I ever actually saw the thing, guy, whatever. It was just this eerie feeling when I walked past the kitchen window that the thing was lurking from the grass. Back then though, it was easy to push away because I only like sensed it a couple of times I was there. It's kind of like the Appalachian Mountains. If you've ever found yourself on that side of TikTok, oh my god, that fueled a whole new thing for me. But it's basically like that. I think that's why it scares me so much, because this skinwalker thing is basically what's been like following me around my entire life. And just to preface, I know it's not real. Like, I do know I'm not that crazy, but it's just like, it's so annoying. And also I have no idea where I would get the idea of like a reptile man, whatever, at that age in Denmark, living on the countryside. We're not very big into conspiracy theories out here. There's also woods behind our house where there would like generally live creatures like fairies and stuff. I think like the movie Bridge to Terabithia I don't know how to say it. If you've seen that movie, there's just like a bunch of woodland creatures, which is basically what I thought the woods behind my house was like. And I will attribute that to a good, healthy imagination. But then also in that movie, there's this like big swamp monster, kind of like the king of the woods, but he's like really fucking evil. And he chases the child from the movie at some point. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I thought that swamp monster lived in our woods. I literally ran from him multiple times. Broad daylight. I'd just be like hanging out in the woods, like doing child stuff, and then all of a sudden like he's here. And then I would be terrified. I'm not kidding, like so fucking scared. Ran out of the woods, and then as soon as I was out of the tree line, I was safe. It's kind of weird, like this thing only existed when I had my back turned, but I could like see it. I could physically sense the presence and see that it was there. Like I was watching myself outside of my body. So, which is a common theme we will get back to. So during my childhood, most of the monsters were friendly, like the gnomes and stuff, but then there was Reptile Man and Swamp Monster Dude. Oh, I also thought our house was haunted. Spiritual psychosis. So right before my teen years, my parents got divorced, which meant we moved houses. This is where stuff kind of like took a little bit of a darker turn. I no longer had the friendly woodland creatures. They stayed behind in the woods, but Reptile Man moved with me. So during this period, I fell into a very deep depression, which means I can't really remember that much from my teen, young adult years. My brain is really good at protecting me. Every time something like bad happens or something embarrassing happens to me, I just forget it so fast. Which is, you know, a good thing, also a bad thing, but whatever. Yeah, I was severely depressed for like around a decade, a little bit more than a decade. I'm fine now. Please don't worry about me, God. And if you're thinking like, where were my parents during this time? Why didn't they help me? I was so good at hiding it. You have no idea. I was sneaky as fuck. Which again, like not a good thing. Also, they probably just thought I was like being a moody teenager that didn't really feel like talking to them. So, but anyways, that's not what this video is about. I just wanted to explain real quick why I can't really remember those years and why this didn't progress during that time. But because I was really depressed, I started having psychosis or like psychotic episodes, I guess. So that would be stuff like I thought the world wasn't real, or that I wasn't real, or that I was the only real person on the whole planet, and like kind of like a Truman Show vibe if you watch that movie. Again, like movie reference, but like it just describes it so well. I also believed that we lived in a simulation at some point, that I was shifting realities, and that like again Coraline. I also thought at some point that I was in the Matrix, that my dreams were real and that real life wasn't real, or that I was asleep in like an incubator somewhere for alien overlords who were just like seeing a bunch of us in pods living our lives. Yeah, right. Oh god, I can feel it like kind of coming back now. This is why I had a trigger warning. Please, if you see this and you're like, oh my god, is that what is happening? No, it's not. It's not. Anyways, I always thought oh god, I always thought I had cracked the code of like the secret of the universe, and everybody else was sheep and I was the only one who like got it, and other people might not even be real. So, but then I couldn't reveal that I knew the truth, because then I don't know, there would be some kind of dire consequences, like I would die or they would kill my family, or I was just like comfortable in the illusion, because if I break out of the illusion, then what is on the other side? Like the reality of waking up in an incubator or out of a coma and finding out that your life hasn't been real. That is so scary, and that is why I stayed in the fantasy. I was in real life, you know? And that was kind of like, I wasn't grounded. I was gonna say that that's how I stayed grounded. I was not grounded. I was just faking being grounded so people around me wouldn't notice and I wouldn't wake up in an incubator to my alien overlords. So anyways, I would feel like this sometimes weeks at a time. Thankfully not that often. It would be just like a couple of days most of the time, and then it will go away for a little bit, and then it will come back, and yeah. So another definition time. Whoop, whoop. Psychosis definition: difficulty recognizing what is real and what is not. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but I think you get the gist of like that was definitely what I was experiencing in a different way than depersonalization, derealization disorder. It's not gonna get better than that. But I also would have like flashbacks into that. You know, I was seeing myself from outside of my body. I think that's also why I ended up making movies for a living, because I would always see stuff from the outside like I was in a movie. So like I always thought along the lines of, okay, now the camera is going over here to film what I'm doing right now. It's very weird. But I feel like a lot of people who make movies do that, and it's not necessarily a mental illness. Okay, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. So back to the monsters, which is, you know, kind of what this is about. At my mom's house, I wasn't really that scared. I would only come out of my room for meals and sometimes not even for meals. And I would spend all my time drawing, writing down quotes, and doom scrolling on We Hearted. Yes. And since there wasn't really like any place for the monsters to hide, I wasn't scared at her house. At least to my recollection, I might have been. I definitely probably still checked under my bed and checked like behind the shower curtain. But I don't know. Can't remember. I was also the most depressed at her house, so that's why I can't remember it. Oh, that's another thing real quick. The monsters are never like just like there. They're always like kind of hiding behind something or like sunken into shadows, which is why if there's nothing to hide behind, there are no monsters. Yeah. But at my dad's house, oh my god. Back then I thought it was haunted, but looking back it's definitely like whatever is going on here that I was afraid of. But the thing about the monsters that I see, and why I always do see in air quotes, is I've never actually physically laid my eyes on a monster, do you know what I'm saying? But in my mind they've always been like one dimension, like right, I'm laughing, I'm sorry, I can laugh at it, it's funny, you can laugh too. They've always been kind of like one dimension right next to ours, so you can see them, you can sense them, you can feel them. Also been struggling with thinking I was like a chosen one or whatever, because I was the one who could see these things. Yeah. I also thought I could speak with animals. I thought I could speak to the trees. I thought I was a witch. I still do a little bit. I do. I can't help it. That's why movies like Divergent will do to you. Makes you think you're special and like you're the chosen one, but whatever. So these things are like just out of reach, and then sometimes they can kind of like just like break the barrier just a little bit. Like for example, I do sometimes feel things touch my legs when I'm about to sleep, and that is those monsters like really struggling to get through the barrier to our dimension and then just slightly being able to cross over. So yeah, I can just see into the other dimension, guys. Case closed. So because of this thing, I've also obviously considered that I might be schizophrenic, but the problem with this theory is since I don't physically hear voices, like I don't think I hear my roommate talking when she's not, and I don't hear a man over my bed like physically talk to me, do you know what I'm saying? And I don't actually see it with my own two eyes. I don't think that is it, but I'm not too familiar. I should have done more research, but I don't know. I'll find out, I guess. Lighting might be a little bit different. I just did my roommate's hair for about an hour. Where were we? Where were we? We. God. So basically these monsters are everywhere, kind of like shadow people. Anywhere there is a shadow or like something you can partially hide behind, there is something behind there. So at my dad's house I lived in the basement, but it was like a half basement because our house was on a big hill, so I did have a window to the outside. But I would go from the kitchen to downstairs, obviously avoiding all windows, because in my mind there was always a head looking. Imagine the screen as a window, but there was always a head kind of like this looking. And then when I went down the stairs, there's like kind of an empty space above the stairs. I feel like a lot of the time above stairs is kind of like stairs here and then the wall is crooked, but at my dad's house it's just a big empty space right here, which of course creates some sort of a shadow. It's not the most well lit area. When I would walk down the stairs and look up, that was like kind of where the lizard man was, the one from the field. Yep. And it was kind of like he was there, but I would have to look, because if I looked he was not there. He only exists behind my back or when my eyes are closed. So I would have to look, make sure he wasn't there, which he was, but he wasn't there because I was looking, okay? Then I walked to the bathroom, checked behind the shower curtain, did my thing. When I wash my face, this is a problem to this day. When I wash my face, I get hit with like a panic, and I never know it's coming for some reason. I always get surprised, maybe because I don't wash my face that often, but washing my face, then I'm like, okay, shit, so there's someone behind me right now, okay. And I'm also really scared of getting water in my eyes, I guess because I'm scared of not being able to look so that the stuff is there. Are you following what I'm saying? I think so. But I'm scared of getting water in my eyes, so I'm like panicking. I need to find a towel so quick. I need to open my eyes so the girl behind me goes away. This is kind of like a Bloody Mary type of girl. So new character unlocked, the girl in the mirror. She still haunts me to this day. When I wash my face, when I'm sleeping at night, she's trying to get out of my mirror. It's actually pretty funny. She only lives in mirrors. Probably something I picked up from like Bloody Mary and folklore, like that kind of stuff. And also I've never seen The Ring, but I think her crawling out of the TV is kind of like stuck with me. So after I wash my face and stuff, I walk out into the hallway, check behind the laundry machine because there's a little alcove right there. Check the closet in the hallway, peek up the stairs again to make sure Lizard Man isn't there, look behind the door to my room, go into my room, look under the bed, and then I can sleep. Also, obviously, I have to have my curtains pulled down because if they're not, skinwalkers are watching me, but I feel like that's kind of a common fear, especially for people who are just like mildly scared of the dark, that you are being watched. So that was my very extensive nighttime routine. I would do this every night, and if I had to go up to go pee, I would have to do it all over again. Also, if I did like sleepovers as a kid, I would purposely hide stuff under my bed that I would need, or if I forgot to do that, I would just like drop stuff on accident. So I would have to go down underneath my bed and get it so I could check underneath the bed before I went to sleep. So because of this and also other symptoms that I have in my everyday life that are also just like fucking annoying, I'm thinking maybe there's some OCD involved too, or maybe it's all just OCD, who the fuck knows, because it's kind of this addiction and these like compulsory things that I feel like I have to do, otherwise I'm going to die. It's almost like an addiction that I have to do all these things, and I'm not really sure what the consequence would be if I didn't do them. The obvious answer is nothing would happen, but it feels like doom. It feels like I'm gonna fucking die. And if I don't check one time, that will be the one time that the shadow people or whatever do come out from the shadows or the second dimension or whatever, and then that will be the night that my soul gets sucked out of my body. So yeah, I'm thinking a little bit of OCD in there as well. I do have other symptoms in my everyday life, like I said. Those are just like kind of annoying as well, but that's not what this video is about. So, okay, that covers my teen, young adult life, whatever. Then I moved out, but I moved out during COVID and I worked the night shift. I worked the third shift at a warehouse. So because of that, I slept during the day. So as far as I remember, I didn't really have any issues back then. I definitely still checked under my bed even though it was broad daylight, and I refused to pull down my curtains because then it would be dark in my room. And after that job, I always worked nightlife, or I was out drinking with my friends after work. It was the time. It was COVID. I think everybody was like a little bit, wasn't like super healthy, but whatever. It's over now. So yeah, I always went to bed super late. I never really slept that much during that time. Oh, and also the street lights, because I lived in the city, the street lights lit up my room, so I've never had a fully dark room. So that helped a lot, but I still did my little checks, but not as extensive as at my dad's house. So that brings us to now. I have lived in so many different places, in so many different houses, apartments, freaking dorms, and the monsters have always moved with me. The terrors persist, but so do I. Let me introduce you to the monsters. So this cute little guy would be the Lizard Man. Wow. I'm not really able to like 100% say this is what he looks like, because as I said, I've never actually seen the monsters. This is just like the vibe. I'm kidding. I guess it kind of feels like when you've seen someone in a dream and then you feel like you have kind of a clear but blurry a little bit idea of what the person looks like. Does that make sense? I hope so, but that's kind of how all of these are. I have a pretty clear idea of what they look like. I feel like since I'm essentially just an adult who's scared of the dark, there's a lot of these kind of shadow people in my mind. Like I said, anytime there's something that something can partially hide behind, there is something behind it, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. Also, like curtains and stuff, and behind the washing machine and dryer at my dad's house, this was what would be behind there. Ooh, Lizard guy, by the way. This is kind of how I'm seeing him. Imagine you're walking down the stairs and this is like over your head. That's what I'm seeing when I'm at my dad's house. This is also the guy who lives under my bed. But he's kind of like, I don't know, he kind of changes character when he's under my bed. He's kind of like more giving, I'm trapped under here, kind of like tail between his legs kind of deal. He just is a curious little guy who wants to come up from under the bed, but he's too scared to, so he is kind of trapped under there. But sometimes will peek his head up to, oh, this is so nasty. Imagine this is the edge of my bed, kind of peek his head up and look at me like this when I'm sleeping and kind of like reach an arm out. I have illustrated this on the big drawing. I'll show you in a minute. Moving on. This is the girl that lives in my mirror. She's kind of like me, but like if I was a dead body who had been thrown in a lake and like was in there for a couple of years and it's just now like a slimy, you know, the Ring girl. That's kind of her vibe, and she's always trapped behind the mirror, but this is my fear, that she crawls out of the mirror and steals my soul during the night when I'm sleeping, or like takes over my body or eats me. that's a possibility as well. Okay, this a tall, handsome gentleman that's blending into the curtain. Also one of those shadow people, but this one is kind of like, I've had him the longest, I think. He's kind of like the Hat Man. I actually do not know the Hat Man story. I'm just for some reason thinking the Hat Man. In my mind, he has like a really huge dark trench coat, and you can't see his face. It's always like blurry, and he just is darkness incarnate. I also watched Lord of the Rings when I was way too young. So this might be kind of like a Sauron kind of manifestation something. Yeah, Shadow Man. Moving on. Okay, on this page, I've kind of tried to illustrate how it looks in my mind when I'm trying to sleep at night. This is my current room. So my head would be here. I'm facing you actually right now. My camera's right here. That's you. Anyways, I'm underneath the covers, cozy. This is Lizard Man reaching out. I think he's also most of the time the thing that touches my legs when I'm trying to sleep. I'm actually pretty sure what I'm feeling like in reality is my leg hairs like shifting around or something. I think that is what it actually is. But you know, I can't help but think it's Lizard King. Anyways, he'll also sometimes, you know, peek his little head up around here. Never like really that close to my face. Always down here by my feet that he pops up. But this shadow person over here also comes to touch my arm once in a while. But he mostly just stands here. I don't see him that often actually. He kind of just comes once in a while. Girl trapped in my mirror. You know, this is the tall Shadow Man, Hat Man. This is a guy hiding outside my window because when there's a window, there's obviously someone outside of it looking at me when it's dark out. So yeah, he lives out there. And then this guy, I have a separate guy that lives in my full-length mirror right here, and he's also trying to get out of the mirror. But this is a dude. I don't know, he's not like a swamp person like her. He's just, can't really describe him. He's new, this guy, so don't have a grasp of him yet. But he's also trying to get out, and then I always pull this curtain in front of my mirror, and then he gets like kind of annoyed with me that he can't stand here and look at me while I sleep. So he kind of, you know, he's a peeker, this one. My God, I am just very mentally ill, huh? I think the most important thing is that it's not like I am that scared. Just super annoying. Imagine how much time I spend doing all these checks. I've also multiple times in my life straight up sitting up, falling asleep with my eyes open, fully lit room. And then sometimes I am able to fall asleep like that, and then sometimes I have to kind of stay up until the sun comes up. So yeah, that's like the worst case scenario, that I have to sleep like this. But that doesn't happen very often. But I do often have to like fall asleep. I lay on my back so I can see my entire room because I can't turn my back on anything. I've gotten better at this actually. I do like exposure therapy where I force myself to sleep on my sides because I hate sleeping on my back, but I sleep on my side and try to ignore that I feel like something is creeping up behind me. But yeah, I do open my eyes every fucking like minute or like 30 seconds to check if anything is there. Also, I think sleep has just always been kind of weird for me. As a kid, I would often sleep on the couch in the living room or sleep on the floor because I had like a weird thing with my bed. Or I would go sleep in my parents' room. Might have been the cause of their divorce. Who's to say? And then after they got divorced, I would like go sleep in their rooms as well sometimes, even though I was like too old objectively. But that bitch was scared. What do you want me to do? To this day, I refuse to look out of a dark window. And if I do go out, I just like pretend like it isn't there, even though I know that it is there. I know that it's not there, but like, I know it sounds kind of weird, but I think of this as kind of a good thing. It is because I'm doing, this sounds crazy, but stay with me. It is because I'm doing so good mentally that this is really starting to become a problem now. I'm not depressed anymore, like whatsoever. I'm doing very well. I'm not really that anxious anymore either. I have my ADHD like pretty much under control. So I think because I've fixed all of these other issues, I kind of have the room for other emotions like being scared now. I honestly don't think it's that bad, like this whole thing. Filming this whole video, I will admit, when I hear myself say it, it sounds fucking insane. So I'm very excited to see what the expert thinks. I personally think it's a big cocktail of different things. Like obviously I did go through psychosis, that is pretty clear. And I think I kind of have remnants of that still. And I do think I have OCD a little bit with the checking of the rooms. And then I'm also just like scared of the dark. But hopefully there's like a magic catch-all disorder. I just haven't found anything doing my own research, and I do not feel like waiting a decade again to get over this. So I'm seeking professional help. If you're experiencing anything like this, even if it is like depression or anxiety or anything else, just like anything, if you feel like, okay, maybe I should ask someone what the heck is going on. I strongly urge you to. I have done the whole DIY psychology, which is why I think psychology is really interesting. But it's just not worth it. Just literally tell somebody. God damn. But I would love to hear what you think about all of this. Do you have any theories of what it could be? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Am I just being a big baby? Do not be afraid of offending me in any way. You could tell me that I smell like doo-doo. I would be fine. Just say anything. I love discussing psychology. I think it's so interesting. The human psyche is wild and maybe not real. But thank you so much for listening to me rant. If you're interested, I will update you on what I find out in this whole journey. Nevertheless, I will go back to my regularly scheduled programming next video, so stick around. I might also give some like smaller updates on my TikTok, so go follow me on all my social media. They're linked down below. And of course, like and subscribe and tell me what is wrong with me, please. I like to do my own research before I go to a doctor, just so like I can tell if they're qualified. Does that make sense? I don't know. Okay. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Bye. Hi.